So, with the draft coming up in WWE this week, I just thought I would come on and give you my thoughts on who I think is going where, like my predictions on what's going to happen, um, and basically I've seen the rules coming out, and interestingly enough, the women's tag team champions obviously they float between shows, so they actually are eligible for the draft. But from what I'm gathering, the the other champions are protected. So I'm guessing protected must mean that they are locked to that specific brand. So people thinking Cody Rhodes is gonna can be drafted to Raw, Smack, or with him being SmackDown champion. I'm guessing protected must mean that he is staying on SmackDown, um, which I actually thought that he would be, you know, on Raw because with the Netflix deal coming in, I thought they would have wanted Cody on Raw. But I mean, obviously, when the draft actually happens, they'll get into it a lot more. But I'm just gonna give you my sort of opinions on who I think is going where. Um, Interestingly enough, I looked at it and I thought, now that obviously Rhea Ripley is no longer the women's champion, and I just thought, are they going to do that? Is she going to be is in the draft? Would they draft her over to the other show? Would she be taken over from obviously from Raw over to SmackDown? I don't know. I think that if it was me and I was booking it, obviously with Raw set to becoming the A show again next year, obviously with the draft, I with well, obviously sorry with the Netflix deal. Obviously you're gonna want to load up that show, and I do think that WWE will load up Raw. Obviously, with Raw being 3 hours, they're gonna get more picks and whatnot. But one thing I do think that they will do is I think that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn will end up back on the same show. I just think that the history that those two guys have, obviously with Sami Zayn now being a champion, you even when they're together and they're in a tag team, together or separated, when they're together, like you just I don't know if it's because we've been preconditioned to think it, but you always just get the sense of when is one of these guys going to turn on the other because it's what you've been preconditioned to see over the years. You know, obviously with Kevin Owens coming in at NXT and being best friends with Sami Zayn, immediately targeting him. So you just with Sami Zayn being the Intercontinental Champion, I just get a strange feeling that Kevin Owens is going to end up back on Raw with Sami Zayn being a champion, the Intercontinental Champion. Champions obviously are protected. They must be staying on the same brands. So I do think that we will see Kevin Owens drafted back over to Raw because he's one of those guys, and he whenever there's a draft, whatever show he's on, Kevin Owens he gets drafted to the other show. So yeah, I do think that. I do think we probably are going to end up seeing that. Obviously, going into the draft next year, obviously when the Netflix deal is set up, and maybe I mean even with Cody Rhodes being the champion, the WWE champion, maybe what they're thinking is maybe he's not going to be the champion as long as people are thinking, and maybe they're thinking, okay, Cody Rhodes, maybe he's not the champion by the draft next year, and he gets drafted over to Raw when the Netflix deal is already in place. You just don't know. They may do that. They may. I don't know. But when it comes to the women's champion, when it comes to the women's tag team champions, I think that was put in by design. I think they said that by design because I do think, obviously, because they float between shows, you could have Kairi Sane being drafted to SmackDown, Asuka being drafted to Raw. They lose the titles and they just got to separate and go to their separate brands. maybe that's what we're going to see, a breakup of the. Maybe that is what they're aiming for, a breakup of Damage Control. Which, to be fair, I think that, you know, if Damage Control does break up, it probably is in their mind, and they probably are thinking that. I don't know, but that's just my opinion anyway. I do think we will see Damage Control drafted to separate brands, and they'll just go their separate ways. Talking about NXT, I think that imminently we're seeing Ilya Dragunov called up to the main roster. Whatever brand that Imperium or Gunther is on, I do think that Ilya Dragunov will end up on the same brand as Gunther, and I do think that possibly he ends up in Imperium. I think that, you know, that may be the story that they go with, putting Ilya Dragunov in Imperium, next to Gunther, next to Ludwig Kaiser as a heel faction maybe. Gunther wins the World Heavyweight Championship, or whichever brand he is on. Gunther, they may even be doing it where they draft Gunther over to SmackDown, and Gunther is the one who beats Cody Rhodes for the WWE Universal Heavyweight Championship. They may well do that. But I do expect whatever brand that Gunther ends up on, I do expect him to be holding that World Championship very, very soon, because it's Triple H. We know how high Triple H is on Gunther, and after the draft, after the King of the Ring, that's where I think they will go. I think that King of the Ring will happen. If Gunther's in the King of the Ring, in my opinion, you're not having him lose the Intercontinental title after 666 days, and then go into a tournament a few months later and then lose again. If Gunther's in the King of the Ring, this is just my opinion. It is my opinion, but I do think this is happening. Gunther is winning King of the Ring, because he's not going to lose and then lose again. There's no, you know, they're going to build Gunther up now as the guy, basically, the new guy. He is going to be the one who just goes on. Now that he's moving up to the main event scene, Gunther is going to be even pushed even more, because I do expect whatever brand he ends up on, he will be taking the World Championship on that brand very, very soon, and you will be getting used to seeing Gunther holding the World Championship for a very long time. But I think he's going to win King of the Ring, go into Bash in Berlin, and whichever championship he goes for, he's winning it. I just do. I think it's a perfect setting. You go into Bash in Berlin, takes the title. Yeah, I do. When it comes to Drew McIntyre, I personally think that after the draft, I believe that Drew McIntyre will stay on Raw. I think that Drew McIntyre and CM Punk are going to remain on Raw. I think that what we're going to see play out is Drew McIntyre. See, this is just the way I would book it. Right? I'm having Jey Uso beat Damian Priest for the World Championship. Right? I'm having that happen, because at the start of all this, with Drew McIntyre's heel turn, who was the catalyst that kicked it all off? Jey Uso. And what better story? I mean, I know it'll make Jey Uso a transitional champion, but he will have won the title. Take Jey Uso into that match with Drew McIntyre. They have a feud for a month or so, you know, back and forth, CM Punk continually getting involved. Drew McIntyre then goes into Clash at the Castle against Jey Uso, and then you build from Drew McIntyre takes the title off of Jey Uso, and then you go on with the CM Punk feud. I think that it's just too perfect to pass up, with Jey Uso being the one all those months ago who Drew McIntyre was started the heel turn off with, was because he couldn't get over the fact that Jey Uso came over, and that's what started him off. So I think Jey Uso beats Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre beats Jey Uso.